18 months after Muslims evacuated their homes, there's no reconciliation in a Central African Republic neighborhood. The new device that could diagnose malaria in a matter of minutes. And Kim and Kanye welcome baby number 2. We'll tell you the baby boy's name. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Tonight, we begin in Ghana, where 20 judges implicated in a bribery probe have been fired. The country's Judicial Council says the dismissals came late Monday, following hearings before a 5-member disciplinary committee appointed by Ghana's Chief Justice Georgina Wood. The hearing used evidence from undercover footage shot by a local newspaper journalist. For reaction, Nana Osei-Bonsu, chairman of Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, joins me live by phone from Accra. Mr. Osei-Bonsu, your reaction first to the news that those judges have been fired. You hear me, Mr. Osei-Bonsu? Mr. Osei-Bonsu? Hello, Mr. Osei-Bonsu. Well, looks like we're having a little trouble there with the telephone from Accra, Ghana. But meanwhile, hundreds of Muslims evacuated last year from the besieged PK-12 neighborhood in the capital of the Central African Republic are finding it difficult to return home. The people who have taken over their Bangui neighborhood say they're not welcome. Chris Stein has our report.
This was the scene in PK-12, just minutes after the neighborhood's Muslims departed in a convoy of trucks in April 2014. Looters took what they could. Others mocked the fleeing Muslims. The PK-12 mosque has been reduced to its foundation. Few signs remain of the Muslims who once worshipped here. Militias known as the Anti-Balaka targeted the Muslims. The Anti-Balaka accused Muslims of supporting the brutal Seleka rebels, who took over the country in early 2013. The end result was a conflict that has killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands, Christians and Muslims alike. Gervais Takamba is a Christian who moved into this house in PK-12 once its Muslim occupants fled. He agreed to talk to VOA only if his face was not shown.
The house where I live right now, it's not for the Muslims, it's for the Christians who are citizens of the Central African Republic. If the Muslims were to come back, I couldn't accept that. I couldn't accept that they'd return to the house.
Mohamed Sarabjo fled from PK-12 to the PK-5 neighborhood when the sectarian conflict started in late 2013. PK-5 is now the last Muslim neighborhood in the capital. Sarabjo says he hasn't forgotten about his old home.
Our house has been destroyed, but if peace comes back, we will go and show the legal paper to show that this is our land.
Consulting researcher for Amnesty International, Jonathan Pedno, says if CAR is to achieve a lasting peace, it will have to determine who owns what.
Certainly the issue of land ownership is a crucial one for the future of this country, because if you're not able to put in place the necessary mechanisms to settle down claims before the returns start taking place, then you'll end up with, land disputes, which can very easily be turned into confrontation between communities.
But that peace remains elusive as killings continue in Bangui and other cities. Chris Stein for VOA News, Bangui.
Well, Donald Trump, the outspoken Republican U.S. presidential frontrunner, is receiving international condemnation for his call for a total and complete block on Muslims entering the United States until the nation's leaders can figure out what is going on.
Wow.
Trump alleged that polling data shows hatred toward Americans by a large segment of the Muslim population.
Until we are able to determine and understand this problem and the dangerous threat it poses, our country cannot be the victim of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad. These are people who only believe in jihad. They don't want our system. They don't want our system. And have no sense of reason or respect for human life. They have no respect.
Virulent statements against Muslims are nothing new to Trump, who has called on the government to monitor mosques and has refused to rule out his earlier proposal to enter the names of Muslims in America into a database. But Monday's statement was an escalation even for the billionaire's usually harsh rhetoric aimed at members of the Islamic faith in the aftermath of the terrorist attacks in Paris and San Bernardino, California. Nihad Awad, the executive director of the Council of American Muslim Relations, denounced Trump's remarks and warned they are putting American Muslims at risk of violent backlash.
Donald Trump sounds more like a leader of a lynch mob than a great nation like ours. He and others are playing into the hands of ISIS. This is exactly what ISIS wants from Americans, to turn against each other.
Trump's remarks came a day after President Barack Obama urged Americans during a nationally televised address not to turn against Muslims in the wake of the terrorist attacks. The White House quickly condemned Trump's proposal, calling it totally contrary to our values as Americans. Trump's remarks also drew condemnation from his opponents in upcoming presidential primaries. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush tweeted that Trump is unhinged. His policy proposals are not serious. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie called Trump's position ridiculous, while Senator Lindsey Graham said the billionaire's rhetoric has gone from making absurd comments to being downright dangerous. We're now going back to Ghana. We're joined by Nana Osei-Bonsu, who is the chairman of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. Mr. Osei-Bonsu, welcome to Africa 54. Yeah, Mr. Osei-Bonsu, do we have you there? Mr. Osei-Bonsu in Accra. Do you hear me, Mr. Osei-Bonsu? Well, looks like our attempt again to go back to Ghana has failed. Well, a South African judge has granted bail to Oscar Pistorius after an appeals court last week convicted him of murder. Now, the former Olympian appeared in court Tuesday to hear whether he could remain under house arrest while awaiting a new sentencing for the murder conviction, which is tied to the 2013 shooting death of his girlfriend, River Steenkamp. His attorney says Pistorius wants to take his case to South Africa's Constitutional Court for review. The appeals court overturned a culpable homicide ruling against Pistorius last Thursday. The judge says regardless of whether Pistorius thought he was shooting at an unknown intruder or knew it was his girlfriend, he should have known his actions would cause death. The murder charge carries a minimum 15 years in prison. Now, turning to the European migrant crisis, thousands of people are stuck on Greece's border with Macedonia because they are being told only those who can prove they are escaping war in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan can pass. Now, these so-called economic migrants from Pakistan, Iran, and Bangladesh have nowhere to go. Meanwhile, refugees and migrants are expected to continue arriving in Europe via Greece over the winter. VOA's Yanni Boyedjevsky has more.
Tensions are still high between migrants stranded on the Greek side of the Greek-Macedonian border and Macedonian police. The migrants already angry that Macedonia has started to erect a fence on the border, started throwing stones at police officers who were cordoning off official checkpoint. About 1,300 migrants from Morocco, Algeria, Yemen, Iran, Pakistan and Congo have been camped along a railway track at the border. They have been blocking rail traffic for 2 weeks. Refugee International senior advocate Mark Yarnell is in the northern Greece. He spoke with Skype about the situation he was witnessing firsthand.
When we talk to people, even though the border's closed right now for them, they keep hoping that maybe tomorrow they can leave, and so they don't want to leave the border because they don't want to miss a chance to potentially enter if the situation changes.
He expressed concern about a series of new and uncoordinated restrictions imposed on several borders in the Balkans being used by refugees and migrants.
They're going to move whether they're allowed to or not, and I think the danger is that for people who can't cross legally into Macedonia, they might get linked up with smugglers and go through Albania or other countries.
According to UNHCR spokesman Brian Hansford, there is an urgent need for safe process rather than a situation where people pursue illegal smuggling and put themselves at risk.
Nobody chooses to be a refugee. What we need are reception centres on the border so as people's stories can be heard, people can be screened, whether they are refugees, whether they're economic migrants, and then we're talking about decisions to be made. If they're economic migrants, for example, then they can be returned to their countries in a dignified manner.
This is not a Greek or Macedonian or German problem. It is not limited to any single country, says Hansford.
This is a unified European problem that needs a unified, coordinated European response.
More than 600,000 migrants have entered Europe through Greece this year. Most of them continue north through the Balkans. Analysts say a new humanitarian situation is developing in Europe that needs urgent attention. Jana Bojacijevski, VOA News, Washington.
Well, the Global Climate Change Conference continues in the French capital. And for the latest details, VOA's Kim Lewis joins me via Skype phone from Paris. Kim, welcome. Welcome to Africa 54.
Now, yes, thank you, Vincent.
Yes, there's a lot that is happening on the sidelines of the conference. Tell us a little about some of the events that you have attended.
Well, have had the opportunity to speak with a lot of people here. I'm at the Climate Generations Center, which is just a ways around the corner from the Climate Convention Center. And there are a lot of people here from all over the world who are offering their solutions to mitigating the effects of climate change. And of course, as world leaders are continuing to negotiate here on this very, very rainy, dark Paris day, we've had like 3 days of really great weather. Then all of a sudden it's been very dark and cold today. But as it's pouring down rain outside, negotiators are still saying that everything is looking really well so far. But many organizations, I talked with one of them, and she is Mireille Atala. She is a senior officer for UN Red. And she says she's very, very concerned about this climate deal because it's very crucial that they make sure they include saving forest. And on the other end of that, she says you really cannot address saving forest without addressing poverty and food insecurity. Because without that, you cannot look at the rest of the world. It's not a separate thing. You have to look at it as a holistic approach to reducing and mitigating climate change. Because if people are starving, they're going to continue to go into the forest and try to find the food that they can eat because they don't have anything else to eat. So this is one of the things that they're looking at, trying to solve the problems.
Now, Kim, you know that going into this meeting, so many people were skeptical, as they always are, that the leaders will spend all this time together and they come out without a concrete plan. Is there any positive kind of hope you hear from the people that they think this time around they will nail it?
Well, really, they're not really sure. I spoke with one of the climate negotiators. It's Antoine Faye. He is with the Senegalese delegation. And I just spoke with him just a bit just before the show. And he says while negotiations are going well, he is concerned that little action will be taken to back up the words. And he says if that happens, then, of course, it's just empty words again. So they really want to see action this time. They want to see people putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, so that things can really get done. And also going back to, if I may, did you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to go back to the person that I spoke with earlier, Mireille Atala. So she says they're doing a lot of things in Africa to really try to educate people, including governments, NGOs, communities, smallholder farmers, on getting them to reduce and mitigate the effects of climate change and forest degradation. So people are out there, they're really doing things, but a lot of these things are happening on a local level. And she also says that the companies that are investing in Africa, they must be transparent. And you have to take into consideration the environment, especially Africa's forests. Another big challenge that they're looking at in mitigating climate change is that of identifying who the players are that are behind deforestation. And one way that she says, Atella says that you can identify them, and that is through satellite imaging. She says that way you can track, you can measure, you can monitor people's activities.
Well, Kim, thank you very much for your reporting. We look forward to a real climate change agreement there. Kim Lewis, Voice of America, reporting live via Skype phone from Paris. I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7, voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Well, coming up now, how biomedical engineers are developing a device that can quickly and accurately diagnose malaria in the field. Stay with us.
This is Green Beat for a healthier planet.
Touted as the world's first people-powered roller coaster, the Green Dragon is a main attraction at the environmentally friendly Greenwood Forest Park just south of Bangor, Wales. Managing Director Stephen Bristow says visitors can have a great day out without using a lot of energy.
We want to give them a fun day out that is not a huge drain on the environment.
The Green Dragon uses the weight of passengers in a separate carriage to haul the cars to the top. The passengers then have to climb a staircase before hurtling down a winding 250-meter track. Just adjacent to the park is an array of solar panels that can produce up to 135 kilowatts of electricity at peak capacity.
It will still go on generating even in fairly low light levels, and it puts power into our systems.
More than 145,000 people visited the park last year to enjoy other low-energy attractions like pedal-powered moon carts, a 70-meter slide, and archery. I'm Rebecca Ward for VOA's Green Beat.
I am Sheikh Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Well, it's time now for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with good news from Liberia. Lino.
Health officials in Liberia have released the last 2 known Ebola patients from the hospital. Liberian medical workers are grappling to explain how Ebola re-emerged in Liberia more than 2 months after it was declared free of the virus by the World Health Organization. The 2 patients released from the Painesville ETU are the father and younger brother of the presumed index case, a 15-year-old boy from a suburb of the capital Monrovia who died from the disease recently. Government officials say Ebola safety procedures remain in place.
I'm pleased to tell you that we are discharging 2 survivors of the Ebola virus from our unit. Unfortunately, they were free and passed, but we were able to manage the other 2, and they have successfully graduated.
It's a bad feeling was there for me, even though...
It is a bad feeling for me, even though I survived, but it is a bad feeling for me because I lost my son.
My first son I ever had.
My first son I ever had. He was my junior, 15 years old. He died unexpectedly to me, even though the nurses and the doctors tried the best, but it was time for him to go.
Even though the nurses...
And over 150 contacts are under quarantine. More than 30 of them are deemed high risk. Scientists in the United Kingdom say they have reached a milestone in the fight against malaria by creating a genetically modified mosquito that is infertile. The plan is to wipe out the insects that spread malaria to people via bites. 2 copies of the mutant gene make the malaria-carrying female insect completely barren. But 1 copy is enough for a mosquito mom or dad to pass it on to offspring. This should perpetually spread the infertility gene throughout the population so the species shrink or dies out. However, the Imperial College London team says more safety tests are needed, meaning it will be a decade before the mutant mosquitoes can be released into the wild. In other malaria news, biomedical engineers are developing a device that can quickly and accurately diagnose the disease in the field. This is not your average cell phone. The mobile device is a microscope said to be capable to diagnose malaria with the same level of accuracy as a high-tech lab. Texas A&M University biomedical engineers developed the new technology.
The way they diagnose malaria now is with a microscope, but it's a big benchtop microscope that's relatively complicated to use. Takes a trained technician, and you have to have the facilities for that scope in a centralized lab somewhere. So basically what we're taking is that gold standard and making it into a portable device.
The add-on device, known as a mobile optical polarization imaging device, MOPED, makes use of a smartphone's camera features to produce high-resolution images of objects 10 times smaller than the thickness of a human hair. The device images a blood sample using polarized light that can detect a malaria parasite by a product called hemozoin crystals. They appear as very bright dots in the image and are an accurate indicator of infection.
An application software that would take that image and be able to automatically count the red blood cells, count the number of parasites over different fields of view. And then by doing that, you can determine whether or not they have malaria or not.
The World Health Organization says in 2015, there have been around 214 million cases of malaria globally so far, with 90% of those deaths occurring in sub-Saharan Africa. The team says statistics such as those have inspired them to keep the device as affordable as possible to ensure it could be used where it's needed most. Smartphones are widely available in Africa, and the team say the cost of the add-on optics will be less than $50. The disposable blood sampling cartridges will be priced at less than $1. The team plans on field testing the cell phone microscope next summer in Rwanda. And that's our Africa Health Report for today. Vincent?
Well, Leno, thanks a lot. Be sure to watch Leno Mudu's Health Reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Kim and Kanye West welcome baby number 2. We'll be right back.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Wherever you are, Voice of America is on air, reaching more than 130 million weekly, worldwide, in more than 40 languages. Online, social media, and breaking news from around the world. On the go, dozens of new features on popular platforms with new apps and trending topics. Voice of America, on air, online, on the go.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Esther Gido-Ewart, and here is what is trending. The newest member of the Kardashian clan has arrived. Kim Kardashian West and Kanye West welcomed a baby boy early Saturday in Los Angeles. He is here, the reality star teased on Twitter. An announcement on Kardashian's website reads, "Kanye and I welcome our baby boy. The baby's name? Saint West. This is the second child for the superstar couple. Daughter North was born in 2013. Next up, authorities say a private plane carrying an American actor Morgan Freeman and his pilot blew a tire while taking off from a Mississippi airport and had to make an emergency landing. Officials say no one was hurt. Freeman issued a statement saying he was heading to Texas from Mississippi aboard his plane to shoot a segment for the series The Story of God. Freeman has been nominated for 5 Academy Awards and won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his role in Clint Eastwood's 2004 film $1 Million Baby. And finally, Oprah Winfrey is starting her own book imprint, kicking off with an inspirational memoir. Flatiron Books announced that Winfrey's The Life You Want is scheduled for release in January 2017 and will show how anyone can put their life on a new trajectory. Winfrey's imprint doesn't have a name yet, but will feature several non-fiction works each year. Winfrey has already generated numerous bestsellers in the past 20 years through her TV and online book club choices. And that's what's trending today. Vincent.
Well, thanks a lot, Esther. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC. That is Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. If you have trouble with a friend or coworker, maybe you should do this.
Clear the air.
I'm afraid I must have done something to hurt Mary's feelings. She has been so unfriendly recently to me. I told her I wanted to clear the air, but she turned and walked away from me.
At my office, there have been so many rumors, the boss called a meeting to clear the air.
Clear the air. This idiom comes from the fact that when there is smoke or fog in the air, it is difficult to see. Sometimes when people are angry or dislike someone, they hide the reasons for those feelings. Clearing the air means that they bring those issues out in the open to work through them. This can apply to both personal and work situations. And that's English in a Minute.